it brings authenticity out. That when you go on and say something, it's me saying it, not an imaginary person that I made up saying it. So that's that. I think that's a point to go out there, because it's why social media is such a good thing, and why it works the way that it works, and why people are so interested in it.
I agree with that. A lot of people compare social media to advertising. The difference is advertising is one-way communication. You might have a billboard and you have no other way of knowing anything about that business than what you see in that billboard. But on social media, you have a chance to get to know a person and a company in a two-way conversation. The businesses who have done well on social media marketing are the ones who break down the corporate barrier and show people things about themselves. On my business pages, I do not have a picture of my logo. I have a picture of myself. It's all about people and connecting with other people. One thing I wanted to point out is for anybody that has a Facebook profile, be careful what you say online in general, but also be careful what you say on Facebook. Just because you're using LinkedIn and Twitter to find a job does not mean you should not be aware of what you're putting out there on other channels. Because it's all out there on the internet. Even if you try to privatize it, you have to be very aware of the persona that you're putting out there.
And just to add on again, remember the photo that I had up with the last building, and you being in the middle of it, and everyone seeing what goes on? That's what it is on Facebook. And so I have a general rule of thumb that I always follow, is that if it's something that, first, think twice before you post something, no matter what sort of a mood you're in. And the second is, if it's something that I wouldn't mind standing up here and shouting out to you, I wouldn't post it. So if it's something that I don't feel comfortable shouting out, standing here, I typically wouldn't post that sort of content out there. Just because, it not only reflects who you are as a person when you put something out there, but it also reflects, if you're an organization that's doing it as part of an organization, or it sort of reflects on your personality in terms of what kind of person you are when you do go and meet that person, whoever your connections are online, whenever you meet them in person. So I think it's a good thing to be careful about and keep in mind that if it's something that you're not going to shout out standing here, don't post it.
We're going to talk about building an online community. I'll let you lead.
Okay, so how do you build an online community that sort of you can ask, or in the way that I put it is exploit them for information? Just because, maybe you want to know what a good restaurant is in town. That's a good way to start out with, because if you live in an area and you want to try out new things, social media is a perfect way to try out. And as more you get on it and more you try out, you build those relationships, and then you can ask some of the serious questions, or create those take that relationship into the next level. Find what their common interests are. Maybe you find a person that is always recommending really good restaurants to you. Chances are they might have similar interests in other areas. So you go and talk about something else. Maybe they like the same movies as you do. You find out that this is a good person to sort of be your I don't want to say friends necessarily, but be your sidekick in a way. That whenever you go out somewhere, you can be with that person and still feel comfortable. And that's what the established social capital means. Social capital is essentially the relationships that you create with other people, and how strong those relationships are. Sometimes you might have relationships that you create online who are your strongest because they support you in what you do, or support you in a cause that you're fighting for, support you in maybe you have a petition that you want to do, they'll support you in that. Or if you want to build a community around something that you're passionate about, they'll help you get started on building that. The second part is circle of knowledge. And I sort of compare that to, let's say if you do have a job that requires you to find information about a certain topic, what you can do is you can rely on social media to post the question out and get people who are subject matter experts. So you might get someone who's expert in flowers, and you have a question about flowers. You might get that person to answer your question about, what type of flower is this, or what type of flower is that. So it's a good way to sort of build that circle of knowledge that you can always go back to and help them out. But remember, the reason social media works is because you engage with people. You're not always shouting stuff out, you're engaging with people. And so when you engage with people, you're also giving them feedback. So maybe you're an expert in maybe you're an expert in fencing for some odd reason, and you can provide some fencing tips to your friends, or your Twitter followers or your Facebook followers. And I just want to go back to that campfire photo, if you remember. No one likes a person who always shares their story and never listens to anyone else's. You want a person who also listens to your story as well as you sort of listen to their story. So just remember that. That's what social media comes back to, is a campfire.
It's about sharing, and it's about building a community. And the more you participate, both listening and talking, the more social capital that you build.
Remember, sharing is caring.
On Twitter, there's something called a hashtag, which is that pound symbol that you see in front of the words up there. It's a very confusing thing, but I tell you that if you put that pound sign and a word in the search area of Twitter, that's how you can find what you're looking for. It's a way of categorizing all of the different topics that you can find in Twitter. These here are called chats. Chats occur typically once a week or once every other week. And you hop online during the time of the chat. Let's say it's at 7 p.m. on Mondays. And you use that hashtag in a conversation. And other people will also be using it in a conversation. And that's how you can participate. I chose these chats because they're all related to searching for a job. For example, entry chat are folks looking for an entry-level job. CB job chat stands for Career Builder Job Chat. You may have heard of Career Builder as a site. This is how you can build a community of people also looking for a job. And you can help each other, but there will also be employers on these chats. So it's a great opportunity to make a first impression and start building a community.
The other advantage of a hashtag is that, let's say if there's a conference that you are really interested in, but you can't make it. It's somewhere in California, let's say. There are people that are at the conferences always talking about what's going on at the conference, whether they're in a panel or they're in a discussion or a debate. People write back on Twitter with the hashtag about that topic. So you can virtually be at a conference and know what's going on at a conference just by following a hashtag. So that also makes that, the world smaller, because you can connect with people and sort of be part of that conversation without even being at the conference. And so, you might find a conference that is going on in Europe and you want to participate in it because it's something that you really enjoy. So for example, I'm really passionate about technology and politics and how technology can help people participate more in politics. And so if there's conferences around the world that are going on about those two topics, I tend to get on Twitter at times, and if I know the conference, I just hashtag it and search for it and look for what people are talking about. And then if they have something interesting to say, I can reshare that with people that I follow, or I can, reply to them and say, oh, maybe, I don't really agree with you, or I agree with you, that's an excellent point. what you're doing, you're building a community again. You're building relationships because that person on the other end, whoever that might be interested in what you said or might like what you said, and they might want to continue that conversation, past the conference, past a week or two later. They'll maybe reply back to you and say, "Oh, remember when you said that?" Then you can sort of continue that conversation even after an event or conference is done.
You can also use the Twitter chats and LinkedIn as a way to find people who have the common interest of a disability. I've found for myself support groups and people who have a shared passion for social media. Anybody who has a similar interest I can find on these two mediums and be able to communicate with them. As we said before, there are work opportunities as well. By using those hashtags, by connecting with people on LinkedIn and building your community, eventually there may be an opportunity for a job.
You can also create awareness about, whether that's, you want to advocate a particular interest that you have, a particular disability that you have maybe, and you want to be a leading advocate about it. You can sort of use your community that you build up to push yourself out there and say, look, I went to a training session and there was no accessibility in any way that I could, learn anything out of it. That's a good way to sort of create this awareness that, we need to sort of work towards a way that everyone sort of can get in the content equally. And I think that's a good way of not only using it for, finding a job, but also using it to sort of create an advocacy and being passionate about something. And when you look for a job, people always look for people who are passionate, because that means that they have some sort of a vested interest in something. And that, that always looks good to employers who are hiring, because they want to find someone who's going to be passionate about what they do, and that it brings out your passion. And I think that's pretty interesting and cool thing about social media. So how do you monetize it? You have to, and this is not just monetizing. It's not just money, but also you as a person. How can you monetize it? So remember, social capital. That's a way of making yourself making people know who you are, and that can usually always be just as rewarding as monetary value, or lead to a monetary outcome at the end. And so you want to establish a self-brand. And I think if I let Rachel do that, because she sort of has established her own brand based on what she does. And you also want to avoid noise. So again, campfire, you don't always want to just post out stuff. You want to sort of control yourself, control what you post out, be aware of the conversations that are going on and engage in them. And then content or product is king. So always treat what you post out there as the word that, you're the authority on. The more confident that you post stuff out there, the more confidently people are going to take that stuff in. The more confident they're going to have in you to come back to you if they have a question about it or if they have a concern about it. And so do you want to talk about establishing a self-brand a little bit?
Well, when you're looking for something, let's say you're looking for a job, you have to determine what makes you unique. What do you rock at? What do you stand for? And that's how you create a brand. My brand online, if I had to define it, is somebody who is helpful, friendly, outgoing, and knowledgeable of social media. So when I'm trying to put my picture out there on profiles, I'm smiling. When I'm putting content on my Facebook posts or my LinkedIn posts, I try to be positive. I try to be helpful and answer questions. This is the kind of brand that I'm talking about. If you have a particular goal in mind, let's say it's looking for a job, then the kind of brand you want to establish is what you have to offer a potential employer. I know that sounds kind of tricky, and it's something that might take a little bit of time to establish, but everybody here has something that they're really good at and that they stand for. And you can start putting who you are online. One thing I wanted to say about content as well. Content doesn't have to be a white paper or anything long like that. Content can simply be 140 characters, such as a tweet on Twitter. Content can be a Facebook post. It can be participating in a group conversation. Content can be whatever you decide you want it to be, but the more content you have, the more you can build that social capital and find more people that you can relate to. We deliberately kept this presentation brief because we realize that everybody in this room has different needs, and we want to be able to offer our expertise to answer all of your specific questions. So we'd love to hear from you and want to know what we can do to help you.
Or something else that you also we would also love to hear is how do you see yourself using social media? How do you see yourself sort of establishing your own brand maybe, or establishing a profile for yourself so you can go out and get your name out there? Or, what are you passionate about? Maybe we already know of a community that you are, or a topic that you're passionate about that sort of we can help you get in touch with, because that's something that, both Rachel and I have pretty diverse, pretty big group of relationships that we have created over time that we can sort of connect you with. And so, that's something that we would also love to know because, again, social media is all about being social. So it would be unfair if we didn't ask you to do that, to be social as well.
What kind of questions can we answer? What can we help you with? Should I give the mic?
I just have a question. Is this thing that you're telling us, is this the general way of doing another, even with the hearing loss or people that are hearing, is this the general way of doing resumes or getting involved with people on both ends, like people with that are hearing loss and plus hearing people? So I guess I'm getting really confused. When I'm thinking, okay, you're telling us about the deaf and hard of hearing, ways of technology out there. Now, are hearing people getting that kind of information too? I guess that's what
I think I got it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take a stab at it and see if I can help. Yes, you are. The advantage of social media is, and there's this. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's beyond the disability. People on social media, behind the computer screen, don't really know what the disability that a person might have. So it's going beyond the disability. Everyone's equal online. You or I, are equal people. When I put something online, I'm not seen as a person with maybe a hearing, disability, or maybe, I have any other, maybe I'm autistic and I don't know what, what the person's disability is, going beyond the disability. And I think that's what makes it so powerful, is that we can all, there's no, just like there's no race, there's no, gender you can figure out by name, unless you have a name that's, both, that could be either male or female. But, there's no race, there's no age in most cases that you can sort of figure out just by looking at a person. Just like that, it's beyond the disability. You're looking past it.
Does that help you?
Makes sense.
Okay.
because I couldn't concept what you're trying to teach people the death of